Okay. All right. Microphone check 1 2. Microphone check 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. All right. Volume seems to be working well. Just doing a few housekeeping things here. Welcome to Zone 864 TV. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, everyone watching all around the world. We are simultaneously streaming on Zone 864 TV on YouTube, Zone 864 TV on Rumble, and Zone 864 Live on YouTube. So, as you enter the live chat, please hit the like button. And if you're new here to Zone 864 TV, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Typically what I talk about is trending topics, news, sports, masculinity. Talk about when people do dumb things. You know, like try to cross a railroad track when a train is coming. You know, and they think that they can cross in time, but, you know, they ended up having to jump out the car before they get killed. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And yeah, you feel me? This is the late night, early morning hangout spot. Feel free to participate in the live chat. This is a new year, 2026. I think this is my second time streaming live this year. We're going to run the numbers up. As you can see, it's the late night, early morning. We're not in a rush. Not in a rush. But we are going to be talking about reviewing this Epstein, Steve Bannon interview that just dropped probably about 4 or 5 days ago. I saw a few minutes of it. And the funny thing is, you know, I've actually covered Jeffrey Epstein. You know, I've talked about the Epstein files. I've talked about Trump and Epstein and, you know, any type of coverage that has came out, you know, about Epstein, Trump, or whatever, or, you know, Epstein files, whatever, you know, I've talked about it. You know, the funny thing that I noticed about this whole Epstein thing, I never once heard Epstein talk. I never knew what his voice sounded like. Not that I really care, but I never heard, out of all the news articles and news videos that I've shared and stuff like that, I've never heard him talk. I've never heard his voice. So it's kind of funny hearing him talk, because you think a person sounds one way and then they sound a complete different way. So it's just funny because, and I know a lot of people out there haven't heard him talk. You know, so when you hear him talk, you're going to be like, damn, I thought this dude would have sounded different, man. You feel what I'm saying? So again, we are simultaneously streaming on Zone 864 TV on YouTube, Zone 864 TV on Rumble, which is my home. That's my streaming home. You know, YouTube, you got to be real careful. Got to be real careful on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So that's my streaming home. So if you ever, if you ever see me do a live stream and then you come back to my channel and then you see that live stream is gone, go to Rumble. That's where you'll be able to find all of my content that's streamed on YouTube. So rumble.com/user/zone864TV, or you can just go to rumble.com or Rumble the app and then type in zone864TV. Pretty sure it'll bring you to my Rumble channel over there. And we are simultaneously streaming on Zone 864 Live. That's the alternate channel. So I got to get back on my grizzy, got to get back on my grind. You know, I have to, content creating for me is a last priority. You know what I'm saying? Like, the content is not a main priority, man. It's not. I just do this content creating thing, you know what I'm saying, when I have a few hours, you know, or when I have some downtime, non-productive time or whatever, you know. So I don't really, you know, I tell people all the time, I'm the laziest content creator you probably ever gonna meet, because I probably should be on this app a little bit more. But, you know, I just, you know, I'm a grown ass man and I don't have time to be on here 10, 12 hours a day, which I probably should be on here 10, 12 hours a day, because I probably make more money. I'll probably get more subscribers and likes and all that. But the only time that I'll do that is if I start to make more money on YouTube than I do in my like real physical life, I'll probably be on YouTube more. So when I start making more money than I do in my real physical life, then I'll be on YouTube more. But anyway, I probably might break this down into 2 parts, because this is a 2-hour video that we're going to review. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to full stretch. You know what I'm saying? Because I do want to get some kind of sleep a little bit. But before we go into this video and we start reviewing the video, got to hit you with the fair use. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, commenting, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. And also, as you can see, the fair use disclaimer is up there on the screen. So the fair use disclaimer is going to be up there on the screen for the remainder of the video, just in case somebody try to come through and mess with the video. The fair use copyright disclaimer is on the screen. And you know what? I suggest any kind of content creator that is reviewing a video, always put the fair use copyright disclaimer on the screen, so that way it's in the algorithm, it's in the picture, like there's no question about it. You know what I'm saying? I just read the copyright disclaimer. But yeah, so we're going to get started, and hit the like button as you come into the stream. We're going to be here probably about an hour and a half. So hit the stream. If you're watching the stream, feel free to be in the live chat. This is the late night, early morning hangout spot. I got to get back in the algorithm, and the more engagement that I have in the chat, the better it is for the algorithm. And we're going to take this thing slow, man. I'm not rushing nothing, man. All right. Hit the like button and subscribe. Let go. Again, fair use.
Before we get into the deep stuff, let's give some basics or some.
Oh, and before we get started, right? Because I want to provide some information. So this interview, just for the context of the conversation, because, you know, I like to provide information, education, and if I can, a little bit of entertainment. All right. So this interview was done by Steve Bannon, who's an American political strategist. Was born in 1953. Some of his career highlights. He was a key figure in the Donald Trump campaign 2016. And he has been like the host of the War Room. And he's been involved in a lot of conservative and MAGA circles as well. So he's kind of like a legacy person when it comes to right-wing politics. And he's almost kind of Alex Jones-ish as far as the conspiracy and as far as his style. So that's who is conducting the interview. Steve Bannon. As far as Jeffrey Epstein, most people know who Jeffrey Epstein is by now, but just to give y'all a little background, he was born in New York City, 1953. He was convicted in 2008 for procuring minors for prostitution. He was later arrested in 2019 on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors. And then, as most of us know already, he died in jail in August 2019, and they ruled it a suicide. But you know, his death is coming out as one of those conspiracy theories because a lot of people don't believe it was a suicide. Me personally, I don't give a damn how the man died. You know, he did a lot of foul shit that he should have never did. And so death was his fate anyway. I don't care whether it was a suicide or a homicide. You messing with kids inappropriately, you need to get the F out of here. Shout out to A-Dub in the building. All right, but we're going to get started with the interview. Sit back, relax, let's go.
Things I want to do inquiry from the others. Walk me through the Santa Fe Institute. What was it about the time of the math? And this was in the late 90s. So they're not going to hear me on this part, right? We're going to do it both ways?
It will not be on the video, but we do have you recorded.
Oh, and one more thing. This video is unedited. So that's why I put raw and uncut in the title, because this interview is unedited. So this is the raw footage. This is the raw footage, all right? So it's unedited. So you're going to hear the interviewer and the interviewee.
Fine. Remember, when you're answering on these questions, I'm not in the shot, and they're never going to hear my voice. So a little bit, you got to repeat in your answer, you got to repeat what my question was.
Oh,
a little bit.
Okay.
Santa Fe Institute. Why, when you're at the top of your game on Wall Street, do you decide to finance, which was at the time, or endow, or become the donor or sponsor, however you want to say it, for what was considered the most cutting-edge group of mathematicians in the world? Action.
So Santa Fe Institute in the late 80s, early 90s, I was interested, I was on the board of Rockefeller. So that starts, Rockefeller University, formed by John D. Rockefeller to sort of give back to the community. It's east side of Manhattan, except it was old. It was sort of old-fashioned. They were talking about medicine, and medicine by itself was, again, subject to the ideas of science. They were trying to use science to find cures for disease. And I said, no, we need to do something different. We need to start interdisciplinary work. In most...
How did a schmuck like you get on the board of Rockefeller? What year was that?
I don't remember. Late, I think 89 and 91.
So that's one of the most prestigious research places in the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how did a guy like you get on the board of a blue blood, internationally known, hard research, Nobel Prize winners all over the place? How do they pick a guy like you, a trader from, or basically some guy from Bear Stearns?
Good question. So I was asked to be on the board of Rockefeller, and I think it was, I was on the board of Rockefeller, there was a money manager who said, Rockefeller needs someone with financial expertise because the university is growing and there's lots of new things. You have to, again, we go back to the original discussion the last time. Up until the mid-'80s, or sort of early mid-'70s, the most important thing was your name. If you were Rockefeller, you already were considered to be brilliant. If you were head of General Motors, it was your reputation. It was who you knew, who your family was, what was your character. And then in the mid-'70s, basically, if you remember, you probably had a calculator. It was very advanced in those days to have a Texas Instrument calculator, where it could, by putting in the numbers, it would multiply for you to do square roots. And that was the first, and everyone who had a calculator was already advanced on Wall Street. A simple almost like your accountant. The most important parts of business were really now going to calculations. So it's not only mathematics, but it's things that could be calculated. Reputation couldn't be calculated. I could give you, are you a 10 on a reputation scale, an 8? What does it mean to have a measurement of your reputation? We'll get to that later. But places like Rockefeller needed someone to say, look, we are entering a different world where numbers and the numbers of companies, portfolio management was going to be balanced, it was going to be statistical. Jeffrey, could you come on the board? Potentially sit on the finance committee, Nancy Kissinger and a bunch of other people. And David Rockefeller and I got along very well. He was this unbelievable human being. Respectful to everyone. He introduced his driver as his colleague, not his driver. He would never say, this is my driver. He said, it's my colleague. And David started to explain to me world politics. So David would say, Jeffrey, money is going to be sort of the most important things. People don't understand money. You seem to have this knack for money. I said to David, tell me about your life. What was the worst and the best part of your life? So David said, when I grew up, everyone knew I was a Rockefeller. They didn't know that my father told me he would not leave me a dime. No money. But every time we went out to eat, me and my 5 friends at school, they would leave.
Shout out to Professor in the building. Let's go.
Leave me the bill. They would expect me to pick up the check because I was a Rockefeller. And he said, I was chairman of Chase Bank. And he said, I remember like it was yesterday, one of the headlines in Time magazine said, David, please fire yourself. So he thought that there was a world that existed that would be a combination of both politics and business and leadership. What do I mean? He formed something called the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is some spooky stuff. People said it was something, the Illuminati, there's some mystery about it, people that ran the world. It was.
Now, make no mistake, people. See, the funny thing is, like, so I'm 37, right? 37 years old, 37 years young, however you want to say it, right? See, the funny thing is, when I was growing up in the mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, right? The funny thing is, when people would talk about the Illuminati, right? Everybody would act like the Illuminati don't exist. Everybody would act like the Illuminati don't. Celebrities would act like the Illuminati don't exist. Adults would act like the Illuminati don't exist. Your politicians, they would act like the Illuminati doesn't exist. Now here we are in 2026, 25 years later, 30 years later, right? Now you have influencers talking about the Illuminati. You have politicians talking about the Illuminati. You have celebrities talking about the Illuminati. And see, part of the reason, in my personal opinion, why they talk about it now is because the best way to hide information and the best way to make it seem like something isn't real is to talk about it or hide it in plain sight. So now the fact that these prominent people talk about the Illuminati like it's nothing, like it's funny, now people are prone to think that it doesn't exist because it's so it's so publicly talked about now. It's crazy. It's crazy and it's interesting, man. Crazy and interesting.
Politicians, but David said, most countries, the politicians get elected for 4 years or 8 years, separate from the royal families in England or in the Middle East. Someone's there for 4 years and then they're not there anymore. The most important people to have stability and consistency would be businessmen. So he formed this trilateral commission of businessmen and politicians from 3 major continents. So it was the North Americans, the Europeans, and the Asians. So he said to me, would you like to be on the Trilateral Commission? Now, I was 30 years old, 32 years.
Professor says in the chat, this is what Nicki Minaj is letting, this is why Nicki Minaj is letting all the cats out the bag. She knows where all the bodies are buried and she's letting loose. She knows where, she probably knows where 1 or 2 bodies are buried. I don't think Nicki Minaj really knows as much as she claimed that she knows. And not only that, she's only talking right now because Trump is in office. And once Trump gets out of office, she ain't gonna be talking no more. If there's not another Republican conservative president, she ain't gonna be talking no more. She gonna be quiet. She's only talking right now because she got Trump supporting her. And here's the thing. She signed one of them devil contracts with Universal Music Group or whatever. She's in on it too. Trust me, if she got the bodies, they got information and bodies on her too. She's in on it too. She ain't no different to me. She's married to a pedophile. So that right there, she's mad. Not only is she married to a pedophile, and I get that, you know, she tries to say, oh, well, this thing happened when he was 15 and he was falsely accused and blah, blah, blah. All the men in the world, and she chose to marry a pedophile. Not only did she choose to marry a pedophile, she chose to have a child with a pedophile as well. So I'm just saying, like, Nicki can bark and talk all she wants, but when it comes to her decision making, yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Years old. I said, great. And he said, well, you have to fill out this application so they have your bio. And I looked at the list of people, and it was Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, Paul Volcker, every great leader in America, the Asians, the Japanese, and with a very long description of their history. And they asked me to fill in what I would like to have written. And I wrote Jeffrey Epstein, comma, just a good kid, which I thought was funny, nobody else did. So in answer to your question, at that time I recognized around the world that monies and currencies were not really well understood. But again, it was only numbers. So numbers, and I'll get to the fact that it was bad thinking. Numbers are very good.
Are most people that you meet, even on a Trilateral Commission, when you meet most people, do you find most leaders financially illiterate, economically illiterate?
Most political leaders don't come out of a background of finance. Most political leaders come out of a background of being popular. So in some of the countries, in some of the African countries,
shout out to Raj Will in the building.
For example, they might have been a military person. They were a general. In some of the African countries, they might have been a disc jockey. Or in our country, they would have been an actor. The knowledge of money they don't have expertise, they have no degrees in finance. They really, and this is one of the major problems, their expertise, if they have any financial knowledge, is of their own checking account or bank account and filling in their own taxes. So many world leaders who don't really have a financial underpinning make fundamental errors when it comes to money on a country or institutional level. Let me give you an example. If you, Mr. Bannon, if I said your assets increased last year, you'd say, that sounds pretty good. And I said, what does that mean to you? You'd say, well, I have more money. I guess I'm wealthier. I'd say, yes. And if your debt increased, would you feel wealthier or poorer? You'd say, well, I don't want to have increased debt. I don't like the idea of that sound, increased debt. Now, that and world leaders understand when their assets go up, they feel better. However, institutions like banks, things that people don't really understand are financial underpinnings of banks. When I say your bank, Mr. Bannon, you have the Bannon Bank, you doubled your assets. Sounds good, but what does it really mean? It means people owe you more money. You don't have any more money. What? Yeah. A bank's assets are how much it is owed by other people.
Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to Raj Will in the building. Appreciate the $5 holler, the $5 super chat. Raj Will says in the super chat, congratulations. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, Raj Will. And I think this will make, I don't know, I think this is like the third super chat I ever received on this channel. So appreciate that $5 holler, man.
That's crazy. So if the bank goes from $2 billion of assets to $10 billion, it means people owe it an additional $8 billion, but their assets have gone up.
My bad.
The terminology of assets and liabilities is different for banks. It's not natural. And what most people, and you ask questions about world leaders, there's many people, I think your old boss Mercer understood, there's a fundamental part of money which is called fractionalized banking. And fractionalized banking is something that...
And see, one of the things, right, because I know this interview was boring, right? But here's the thing. This is part of what I do on my channel. I review boring, this is the boring channel. I show content and I review content that nobody wants to watch. Because I know it's only going to be certain people that are interested in what I'm talking about. I know it's only going to be certain people who are interested in what I'm talking about. My content is not for everybody, right? But the reason I wanted to review this live stream is because y'all hear all of this stuff that he's talking about, banking and business and, you know, finance, this, that, and the third. Because I want you guys to understand, right? As y'all are watching this video, I want you guys to understand this is what a sex trafficker looks like. This is what a person who puts children, minors, through child prostitution looks like. This is what they sound like. He could be a school teacher. He looks like he could be a professor at a college or university. He looks like he could work in your local bank. He looks like he could be one of your local politicians. And so keep that in mind. That's why this interview is so shocking, because a lot of people have never seen Jeffrey Epstein in this light. So just keep that in mind the entire time that the video is playing. And keep this in mind. Everything that he's saying is a mask, right? Is a disguise for what he's really doing behind the scenes at the time. Now, I don't know when this interview was taped and all that. Obviously, it had to be taped and recorded. And shout out to Queen Brielle in the building. Appreciate you for joining us this late night, early morning. Obviously, this was filmed and recorded when he was alive, right? But yeah, just everything, every time he's talking about economics, banking, finance, like the more you listen to this interview, it just draws you into how much of a crazy psychopath this dude it really is.
That finance people understand, and the people on the street, and when I say people on the street, that's where I was when I started on Wall Street, would find it impossible to believe. Impossible. Why? Bannon Bank, I give you $1, just one single dollar. In our system of banking, I would say, okay, Steve, I gave you $1. How much can you lend out to your friends? And your natural reaction would be probably something less than $1 because I want to keep something in my pocket. The way our system works is if you as a bank are holding my dollar, you can lend out an additional $8 or $9. No, it's impossible. I only have $1, Jeffrey. We have something called fractionalized reserves, which is if you have 1, you can lend out 9. That's the way our system works. And so not only do world leaders not understand banking, but the man on the street, my father who worked in the park department, it would be beyond his imagination that people could lend out more money than they actually had in their pocket. Next question.
But how did this, in understanding that, when you get on something like the Trilateral Commission, you're on the board at Rockefeller, which is the most advanced research. You get brought into the Trilateral, which is the elite of the elite. How, since you're only at that time
30-something years old.
8 years from teaching at Dalton, right? You're a Dalton.
No, 10 years.
10 years teaching at Dalton.
Yes.
Walk us through. I mean, put us in the room. Walk me through exactly what it felt like. What it felt like being on the board at Rockefeller. You got these Nobel laureates, and you're sitting there making decisions, and you start to meet these people at Rockefeller. Now you start to meet these people at the Trilateral Commission. What did it feel like?
It's a great question. So what did it feel
That's
like?
what I'm in the business of asking.
Yeah. What did it feel like meeting some of these people like Kissinger or Rockefeller? And those are two extraordinary people. But in general, I think the question, the people on Wall Street, I tell the story, the first day, one of the first days when I was in Wall Street, someone said to me, would you like to buy ATV? And I was looking in the brochure and I couldn't figure out what stock had a symbol of ATV. And when I finally said, well, I can't find it. And they said, what's the matter with you? Do you want to buy ATV? Which is, he was selling hot televisions, stolen televisions from the floor of the American Stock Exchange, referred to in common parlance as the televisions fell off the truck. So I knew what that phrase meant from Coney Island. But what I found was most people, be it in business, in normal life, or in the world leaders, don't really understand money. It is something they think about. They have a sense of what it is. They certainly want more of it. But they also make statements like, we want more money, but we don't want more debt, which just shows a misunderstanding of what money at its core really is. So most people don't, they want to make it, they want to save it, but to understand it intimately is not a normal characteristic.
At the first Trilateral.
Okay, what's going on here? Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Okay, we bike. We bike, man. You know what I'm saying? We taking risks, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, listen, man, sometimes when you doing stuff on YouTube or you sharing this certain information, sometimes weird things be happening, man. Weird things be happening, man, but we back. We back.
Yeah, you're good.
Just give me approximate. You joined the Trilateral
I
Commission.
think it might be.
And we'll be able to show we'll pull down the chart of where your name was, but just give me roughly when it was.
I think it could be 90. I don't remember.
Okay. Let's say early 90s.
Yes.
When you got on the Trilateral Commission and had the first, do you remember where the first meeting was?
It was in Tokyo.
In Tokyo. And at what hotel?
I would like to say the Hilton, but it's probably not.
And it's a 3-day, 4-day? Give me some
Three-day event, and it
walk me
was
through the whole thing.
Speeches.
It starts with a dinner. Just walk me through it.
It was boring.
You couldn't possibly think it was boring. It's bullshit.
It was boring.
You had to be
sorry.
stars in your eyes.
No.
Did you fly over privately?
Yes, but it wasn't my plane.
So it didn't count?
No.
You fly over.
Yes.
And
it was
who were the first? Like when you first met those leaders, you had to be wowed.
No.
You're 10 years out of Coney Island.
No, I'm not wowed by people of position. I'm wowed by people of great ideas. And I don't care if it's the bus driver. I don't care if it's the student I had who has teeth coming out in
Well,
every
these guys
direction.
have to have great ideas. They're the leaders of the 3 great continents of the world: North America, Europe, and Japan.
No, many of these world leaders become world leaders because they're popular and they were able to get votes, or they were able to convince people to vote for them. I learned later. Many of them were just good at what they did in terms of politics. Remember, world leaders are politicians in general. They're not scientists, they're not intellectuals, they're not great thinkers, they're great politicians.
At the first Trilateral Commission meeting that you remember in Tokyo, sometime in the early 90s, do you remember what were the big issues of the day that they were talking about, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, in fact, it was funny because they were talking about inflation, and they were worried that what would happen, how do you control inflation? And as a mathematician, I didn't understand the concept. I don't understand the concept today. How's that possible? Well, when you talk about most things to do with money, money is meant to be local. It's US dollars. Then I understand what it means. If inflation, it means my dollar today inflates, and it doesn't buy as much as it did a couple of years ago. The prices go up. It seems that everything is great, but
Okay, let's take a quick pause for the cause here. Let's see what Professor's saying in the chat. Professor says in the chat, by the way, he's still alive. They spotted him in Israel. He's got a beard and bodyguards. He looks like a homeless guy. We get throttled. Those are the rumors that I'm hearing. Those are the rumors that I'm hearing. I'm hearing he's alive, and and here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Typically when people pass away, things just kind of fade to black, right? Now, here's the thing. I will say this, right? This could definitely be a Democratic ploy to try and make the current president in office look like a buffoon. On the other hand, it seems like, because typically when people are alive, right? Typically you want to try to cover up as much information as you possibly can. So the fact that Epstein's name is in news headlines like every other day, Michael Jackson's name hasn't even been in news headlines this much after his death. So Epstein's name is in news headlines like he's still alive, like he's still walking around breathing, And like Professor said, he possibly could be. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. We didn't see him get carried out on a stretcher. None of that. Shout out to JC the Conqueror in the building. You know, but hey, because we on YouTube, this is speculation. You know what I'm saying? This is speculation. But I know for a fact that none of us in this YouTube live stream, none of us in this chat room right now saw Jeffrey carried out on a stretcher. That is the truth. That's the truth. All right? Not the truth with a TH, the truth with an F. Make sure y'all hit that like button.
But in fact, my dollar is shrinking in value.
If you, and you're the financial genius here. I'm just a lowly M&A guy.
Sure. If you let me finish the thought.
Go ahead.
So if you're in America, you can feel inflation. Your salary's gone up, but you don't buy as.
JC the Conqueror says, we knew about JE in 2016. Yeah, we certainly did. We knew about JE in 2016. In fact, we knew, I won't say the general public knew, but the political system knew, the politicians knew about Jeffrey Epstein in 2008, 2007. So they knew about this dude way before all of this political cover-up stuff that's going on is going on. And I think everybody was just sloppy and, you know, they never thought that this would come to light. And with the evolution of technology, once it's on the internet, it's forever.
Can't buy the same car. In fact, it starts to feel weird because the value.
That's why I wanted to ask the question then. This is my point.
Sure.
The people who live and breathe this, the central banks, have been haunted by the specter of inflation since the late 70s.
Yes.
First off, tell our audience, how did that happen? The two great financial events in the 20th century, I'm not going to get to the 21st, were the great inflation in Europe after World War I, the Great Depression, the hyperinflation in Germany that led to the rise of Hitler, and then this inflation in the mid-70s. What was, before you go to explain inflation, why is this specter of inflation always the central thing in central bankers' minds?
Because it goes back to the first concept I said, the weird concept of fractionalized reserves. The system is not well understood. And most systems, in fact, are not well understood. We don't know how our digestive system.
Stop. This is impossible. This is impossible. The world banking system, the world currency system, the world monetary system has to be so well understood by the Greenspans of the world and the Bernankes of the world and you, right? The currency traders, the guys making billion-dollar bets every day. The legendary guy on Wall Street in the late 90s, Versalin Brothers.
Lou Ranieri?
No, the guy that wrote the money.
Michael Lewis? Marius Poker?
Yeah, Marius Poker. Who's that about? That great trader.
Lou Ranieri.
No, it wasn't Lou, the guy that ran the desk. Yeah. That eventually ran the hedge fund that went long-term capital.
Yes, I don't remember.
Who's the guy?
I want to say, I don't remember. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Lou Ranieri is big, but those guys have to understand the system perfectly.
No, they don't understand the system. They understand the local part of the system. So, for example, why is not only inflation, most bankers are terrified if the public understood that the bank really doesn't have their money at any one time. It's one of the things during the Depression, there were runs on the bank. The reason the banks don't keep much money in the actual bank is they assume that not everyone's going to want their money on the same day. So it's not really the fear of inflation. The fear is a run on the bank. Everybody wants to take out something that doesn't really exist. Inflation is tied to interest rates. It's a more complicated example. But when your money doesn't buy the same amount of product this year than it did last year, if it buys less and less, like it happened, you used the term hyperinflation. There's certain countries that are not managed well, like in Africa at the current, a $100 billion bill in Zimbabwe is worth 1 American cent. That's the perfect example of hyperinflation. It goes up, it doubles every day. So people are afraid that their value and the system starts to break down. But so if I said to you, does your doctor you understand your body system? You'd say, well, I hope so, because I want him to keep me healthy. But you could have a kidney infection, you could have a heart attack, you could have a broken knee. There's lots of pieces of this system. And in fact, when you ask the question, very few doctors understand your entire body. There's a specialist for your knee, there's a specialist for your polynoidal cyst, there's a specialist for your head, and now we have specialists in different areas. So and I'm going to get to your first question about Santa Fe Institute. The world economy and your body are both comprised of little systems interacting with each other and making one big system.
This is what's stunning for all the little guys out there, the populist movement, the little guys that haven't had a pay raise in 30 years. They think that these elites, have everything. The guys in the room making the decisions, the party of Davos guys. You're sitting there, you don't think many people today really understand the complexity and really all the moving pieces and how they interconnect to the world's financial system.
No, not only don't they understand the complexity, and that goes back to Santa Fe Institute was an attempt of trying to see if there was a way to mathematize, formularize, or algorithmically understand what the term complexity means. That goes back to the original question. Complex systems are complex by definition. But there's not necessarily, it's not one level of complexity. As we might say, well, our fingers are complex, the movements, the muscles of our hands. But it's not as complex as the blood system. Now I have a circulatory system. I have systems on top of systems. So that there's no one group of or person that really understands the way the body works. There's no one group that understands the way the financial systems work. You might understand U.S. bond market. Now you've asked about the trade of long-term capital. That was a bond fund, very small part of this very complex system. So the goal of the Santa Fe Institute was to see, is there a way to get in, somehow understand how complex systems interact?
The police officer at the scene told me to never sue the...
All right, y'all. Commercial break. Make sure y'all hitting the like button. We are simulcasting. We are on Zone 864 TV on YouTube, Zone 864 TV on Rumble, and Zone 864 Live on YouTube. That's the other channel, the backup channel, which is not a backup channel, but it is. All right, let's go.
Steve, to today, where Google and these other engine companies, the other tech companies, are trying to build artificial intelligence. The strangest thing that they found, one of the strangest things, is that the systems that they design, this artificial intelligence, which a lot of people have heard about, is they design a bunch of systems. They're called neural nets. Terms simply taken out of brain work, neurons in the brain. Nets because they actually look like a net. They put in some inputs. The computers work, spit out an answer. Sounds normal to you. It's because you're thinking about that calculator you had in 1976 on your desk. When you ask the person who designed the system, how did it come to that answer? How did your neural net, can you show me the calculations? They say, no, we don't know. We don't know how the thing we designed actually came up with that answer. That's pretty strange. They take the same neural net now and they put it in front of a video game. No learning, nothing. They said to the computer, they say, sit in front of your video game and learn how to play. It seems the computer learns better than any human in history, faster than any human in history, beats any human in history, but when you ask the designer how did it do it, no one knows. It just did it. So that's the first little touch of things that we already have gotten to a place where we don't understand it and we built it.
On Sunday afternoon, September 14th, 2008, where were you?
Sorry?
It was the night they put Lehman Brothers in bankruptcy in London.
I was in jail.
Okay. All right. So this is, and thank you guys for bearing with me. I know this is boring, but this is what I do, y'all. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I watch a lot of the other stuff that goes on YouTube for entertainment, but when it comes to me, Zone, I'm really not good at, you know what I mean? Like that other stuff. I like education. I like information. I like boring stuff, man. I like news. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what I like, But I say that to say that this is kind of where the interview is gonna start to pick up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I seen a little bit of the interview before I started, but then I'm like, nah, I'm gonna just watch it live with everybody. I'm gonna just watch most of it live with everybody. So this is kind of where it's gonna start to pick up a little bit. And keep in mind, again, this is a let me use the right words. This was a man who was convicted in 2008 for procuring a minor for prostitution. He was later arrested in 2019 on federal sex trafficking of minors. He died in jail August 2019. The official ruling was a suicide. That's what they say, but that's what they say. That's what they say. JC the Conqueror says he got tapes on all these politicians who were being blackmailed with kids. Yeah, listen. I mean, a dude like this, like you just look at him on the screen, he got tapes of everybody. He got tapes of everybody, thumb drives, Hell, I'll take it back to 1995, floppy disk. Yeah, dude like this got it all, man. And it's just so crazy because when you hear him speak, just think about it. Like, think about when you walk into your local bank or when you walk into a prestigious institution, think about how many people look like him, dress like him, sound like him, and you have no idea who they really are. And they putting on this professional front for you. They putting on this professional front to the public every day. Absolutely. And to keep it real, he did, Jeffrey did what he did. He did what he did, and he deserves to burn in hell for what he did. Absolutely. But let's keep it real. He's the fall guy. He's the fall guy because it's easy to just put everything with him because he got convicted before. If he would have never had a clean record of anything, it would be way harder to put all of this stuff on his name. If he never would have got that first conviction in 2008, it would be way harder to put everything on his name. But because he got that first conviction in 2008, that's what makes it easy to put all this shit on his name. And he deserves to have all this shit put on his name. But I'm just saying, it's always got to be a fall guy for situations like this. It's always got to be a fall guy. And he's the lucky son of a bitch. That's the fall guy. Let's go.
Seriously?
Yes.
So the financial crisis of 2008 happened when you were in jail?
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be so amazing. This is going to be so amazing. I take it you didn't have your Wall Street Journal dropped off to you in the morning, your Financial Times?
No.
How did you hear about because I want
I forgot about this, but yes.
I'm trying to this is going to be amazing. Let's go back and do that again. Sunday afternoon, because I want to find out about people, the geniuses understanding the complexity of the financial system. Because I think the best example we have is the financial crisis, the crash of 2008. Sunday afternoon, September 14th, I think it was, 2008, is when they were working feverishly in Midtown Manhattan at the Lehman Brothers offices and at various law firms around town, and with the Secretary of Treasury and the Federal Reserve, what they're going to do with Lehman. They decided they weren't going to save it. And so they prepared to put it into bankruptcy at the open of the market in London the next day.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it.
Sorry, y'all. Quick commercial break. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you are not subscribed. Let's go.
What was going to happen to Lehman Brothers, and what did you immediately think when you heard they was going to be put into bankruptcy?
I'm glad you asked that question. I was in solitary confinement September 14th. And again, some of the public stories about the...
Okay, so now we in 2008. This is when he was convicted the first time with the situation with a minor. So now this is kind of where he's slowly getting into his first situation in 2008 when he got caught up.
Wonderful time I had in jail and my work release, which didn't come till months after. I'd been there since June in an 8x10 cell with a bed in the back, a 6-foot bed in the back, a chrome sink with a toilet attached to it, and a little piece of metal sticking out that was supposed to act as a table. Now, since I was in jail, there were no books. Why? There's no library. No library, but you're in jail. No, I was in jail, not prison. So in jail, I was in a place which is called the Special Housing Unit, which is for the roughest, toughest, meanest people. They had put me there, they said, for my own protection. So I was in a 8x10 cell with a little slit in the door where they would serve my food on a tray about 9 inches by 4 inches. And then as soon as I finished eating, they would take the tray and close it down. And one of the guards said, "Do you understand there's Wall Street's crashing. I'm worried about my pension fund. What should I do?" And I said, "Sorry, Wall Street's crashing? What's happened?" And he said, "There's some crisis and some companies are going bankrupt." I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yeah, it's all over the papers. We're all terrified we're going to lose our life savings because we have either a 401k or our pension funds. We don't know anything about money. Mr. Epstein, can you tell us, like, what's going on? Am I going to be able to afford my children's education? Am I going to be bankrupt like this company called Lehman Brothers?" And there's another company in the front page today called Bear Stearns. "Oh, no," I said. Why? Because that's the company I was a partner in. And in fact, that was a company I had a very large investment in. So, as a great story, I didn't have my Wall Street Journal, but in the early mornings, you're allowed to make 2 phone calls, collect. And when you pick up the phone, you can dial a number, and when the person picks up, they say, "You're getting a call from the Palm Beach County Jail. Will you accept reverse charges?" And the person either says yes, and the call goes through, or the person says no. The person I had called was Jimmy Kane, the president of Bear Stearns. And I said, "Tell me what's going on." And so that my knowledge of the financial crisis happened with Jimmy, who was at the center of the storm, telling me about what Lehman had gone under, and they were trying to figure out a way, should they bail out Bear Stearns?
Did it strike you at the time of the mess you had made of your life to be in a situation that you're one of the greatest financial minds in the world, looked at by world leaders and asked your thinking by the most prominent and important people in the world, and here you are in solitary confinement. You got to make a collect call to somebody. Did it strike you at the time how how all the threads of your life had come together and put you in a position, or you had put yourself in that position?
No.
So it never struck you when you had to make your one collect call, one of your 50% of your collect calls that day, you call the president or the head of the CEO of Bear Stearns, the biggest financial event in your life is taking place, of which one, every important person in the world would be seeking your opinion. Number two would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to apply your craft. Number three, it would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make money if you were smart, and obviously you're smart. You're telling me here, truthfully, that it never hit you at all of how you'd ended up in a place where you had to make a collect phone call from a jail cell that was 6x9 with a steel bed and your food being passed in through a slot.
The question you want to ask is, who was the other call to?
Okay, who was the other call to?
The other call was to my friend at J.P. Morgan.
So do you see like how much of a psychopath he is? Like he's over here like he and ha and about, you know, while he's like, yo, I'm locked up, but you asking the wrong question. You should ask me this question. You should ask me who I was on the phone with. This man is locked up for procuring a minor for prostitution in 2008. And he's kind of nonchalantly putting that off to the side. And he's laughing. He's laughing at the situation. He's kind of giggling about the situation. Like how see, I don't get that, man. Like, how can you do something that evil and you just like, and you just smirking and laughing about it? I don't get that, man. Like, I would be terrified to do something like what he did. I mean, the thought of just having to be in prison every single day. The thought of having to go through all of that public humiliation. The thought of losing all my friends, my family, being looked at, you know, like a pervert, being talked about like I'm a pervert. And yet here we are, he's laughing about it. And, you know, the interviewer, Steve Bannon, is asking him questions. And he's like, well, no. You're not asking the right questions. You should ask me this question. You should get this juicy detail. Like, it's weird to me. But yeah, this is kind of, like I said, this is kind of where the interview kind of heats up a little bit and gets a little bit more interesting.
Who was then, I didn't know it at the time, trying to buy Bear Stearns. So at one point, I had two phones. It was difficult because they're afraid people are going to hang themselves with the phone cord. So they don't actually come together and they're pretty short. So I was actually going between two phones talking to Bear Stearns and J.P. Morgan at the same time. So I found it amusing.
And it never struck you about how to end up in a situation like this?
No, that would be probably means I would be too self-aware.
You can't possibly expect me to believe this.
I know. I don't believe it.
You're telling me that during that day, you never had a moment. You sat there and go, what the fuck have I done with my life that I'm in a 6x9 jail cell when I should be on a trading desk or I should be in my $250 million greatest townhouse in New York City taking calls from the king of Saudi Arabia, the president of China, the head of Russia, the president of the United States to save the world's population from a financial debacle. You honestly expect me to believe that that never happened?
You're suggesting I was somewhat depressed, and how could this happen to me?
I'm not saying depressed. I'm saying a moment of awareness of how could I get myself into this situation.
No, I would just say how strange that this happens. It's strange. I'm wearing a jumpsuit and flip-flops.
What color was the jumpsuit?
Brown.
Brown jumpsuit.
Yes.
I notice I don't see you in a lot of brown.
No.
Brown jumpsuit and flip-flops.
Flip-flops, yes.
With no access to books, no access to newspapers,
No access to anything.
You had lived on information.
Except my Almond Joy bars. I had extra Almond Joy bars.
Did you eat Almond Joy bars and things like that because you're afraid of what the cooks did to your food?
Yes.
Is that because of that you were...
And see, that's another thing too. That is another thing, you know, why I try to be on the straight and narrow. I don't want to have to be in prison and have to worry about people doing shit to my food, putting shit in my food, doing crazy stuff to my food, taking their hand and wiping their ass and putting it all in my food. Who want to deal with, you know, somebody mess around and put a razor blade in your food and you swallow it and it's cutting you all up inside? Who want to deal with that? Who want to deal with that, man? Like, I'm going to be honest, man. The thought, and this goes to anybody, not just this evil motherfucker. Like, the thought, this is why, see, the funny thing about like me and a lot of my friends growing up, because I've been detained before. I've been detained, but I never been arrested. I never been in jail, never been in prison. But you know, the funny thing is, growing up, depending on where you grow up, doing petty crime is kind of like almost like a rite of passage. You know what I'm saying? And I remember growing up and, you know, be hanging with the homies and they like, yo, we about to go in here and we about to steal this pack of, you know, this, that, and the third, right? In just a regular store, you know what I'm saying? But the funny thing is, I always thought anytime I was in a situation where I know it could go left, I always thought about the situation. Like I always thought about the negative ramifications. And see, a lot of people, mischievous people, see, they don't have that ability, or they do have that ability. They just ignore it, but they just go and do what they do. And then it's like they have no problem with the consequences. Whereas it's like with me, I have a problem with the consequences. I have a problem going to jail. I have a problem being in a cell. I have a problem having to take a shit in front of other dudes in a jail cell. I have a problem with all of that. And so even to this day, when I be like, I'm gonna fuck this motherfucker up, I think about the consequences. When I be like, I should fuck this motherfucker up, I don't like this motherfucker, I think about the consequences, because I ain't trying to do that jail shit. That jail shit is for the birds, and I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what nobody say. But yeah, man, crazy.
Were in for the crimes that you were in for?
No, it was just in fact, I was...
Is it because you're wealthy?
Yes.
How did you know that?
Well, people would constantly come, if I was passing by or have to go for my medical, people would either ask to borrow money or make some other types of comments about...
In
the beginning...
What were the comments? At the beginning, what were the comments?
It serves you fucking rich guys right that you're here next to me.
There was nothing about your crimes?
No.
So all this rumor you hear all the time about people in prison that commit the type of crimes you commit, you're saying in your personal thing is not true?
No.
It was all because you were rich?
Yes.
And it was all because they wanted to borrow money?
Or get advice. Yes.
Where they get advice to go long?
Yes.
You're telling me
is this time to buy?
You're telling me in solitary confinement they're interested in going long?
Yeah. They want to know what
does that say about human nature?
Well, what I think the people find, one of the reasons they wanted to keep me in solitary confinement was they're afraid that everybody would want to know which stocks to buy. But what happened was, after this crisis, now it's on the front page of every newspaper.
I don't want to lose this day.
Sorry.
When you first heard that, was it Bear Stearns had been kicked into bankruptcy, what, 6 months before?
No, this is the same time. This is part of the same deal.
I thought, no. Bear Stearns, they saved Bear Stearns and didn't save Lehman Brothers. That's
right.
it. 6 months before, they had bailed out Bear Stearns, but Bear Stearns was still a zombie.
A shell of its former self.
A former self, but they had quote unquote saved it. They admit. Why did they make the decision in your mind? Why did Hank Paulson and Bernanke what's this concept of moral hazard? Explain to the audience what moral hazard is, and why did they save Bear Stearns 6 months before, and why did the smartest guys in the room decide not to save Lehman Brothers?
It's a good question. The real issue is I'd have to go back when you have these systems to the way your doctor responds to any type of emergency in your body. If they might decide to save your kidneys and let your gallbladder go because the gallbladder is less important to your overall system. If at that time, even it's not that long ago, the boogeyman was when said, well, what really happened? Jeffrey, what really happened? What is this financial crisis? And, some of the progressives and the right wing blame it on the banks. It was the banks' fault. And it's the fault of this very esoteric, unknown concept of derivatives. It was really the derivatives that caused this financial crisis because the derivatives got somehow out of control and in the Mickey Mouse.
And that was the way you started your road to a billionaire went right through derivatives.
Yes. But derivatives were not the cause. Derivatives were not the cause at all. It's like saying your hair was the cause of your heart attack because it was on top of your head.
So what
when you
was
fell
the
down.
cause?
There isn't, let me say, there's no one specific cause. These are system collapses. So many times when they have to make your death certificate, when you say, well, what did he die from? They'll say heart failure. But if you say, what was the cause of his heart failure? Well, he had low blood pressure, his sugar was high, he was diabetic, he had all these other problems. But you say, no, we need a word on your death certificate. Did he die from brain damage? Did he die from heart failure? And that's the financial crisis. Many people said, well, what caused it? They wrote, like on its death certificate, derivatives. But derivatives were not a fundamental, derivatives are not a fundamental cause of anything.
Was it Sunday or Monday? I take it was Monday morning when you made your two collect calls and you were talking to Bear Stearns on one hand and Morgan Stanley on the other.
JP Morgan.
JP Morgan. That was Monday morning. Did you, Jeffrey, being one of the financial geniuses in the world, did you understand what Lehman Brothers is going into bankruptcy, the domino effect, that by Thursday the financial system would be under such extremis that if it didn't have $1 trillion cash infusion in the United States, it might collapse? Did you know that at the time? Did you view that at the time?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Why?
Again, I don't want to bore you or the audience with the idea of it's a medical procedure, but you had system failures. So you'd recognize that if I said to you, did you realize when your father was on the ground and he was clutching his chest and he couldn't breathe, it was a bad situation, he could die. That's how I saw it.
Did you immediately think about the commercial paper market? I mean, the mechanical triggers that actually you had to blow through these circuit boards. Did you know the circuits? Did you understand the circuits? Or did you have a concept of the circuits that were going to get blown through?
Yes, but only because of an analogy to a body. And in fact, from my telephones against the wall with my little metal wires, because the next day I talked to another person in Washington about the issues of what I thought was happening, and I made the same discussion about the...
They were at the Treasury Department?
Yes.
So in a 6x9 cell in...
The phones were outside the cell.
In Palm Beach County, California?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
West Palm Beach, Florida.
This was your juice diet.
West Palm Beach, Florida. West Palm Beach, Florida. West Palm Beach, Florida. you're making a call to Washington, D.C. to talk to some deputy secretary of Treasury.
Someone in Treasury.
Right, someone in Treasury.
Right.
And that does not, the night before you go to bed, it doesn't dawn on you at all. You never have a moment of self-reflection that, how did I end up on this metal cot when I should be at the center of things?
No, I had a telephone, so I've said, I can talk to, it makes no difference where I am, in fact. I'm still talking to the same person if I was at my home in Palm Beach. But I'm here in
Your
jail.
home in Palm Beach.
I can dial my own phone.
That's bullshit. No, but you can also make 1,000 phone calls. Here you got to make one, and he's got to take.
Think how much better that was. I had to decide who was the right person to call. That was unusual for me, because I would have called 20 people
And
before.
what was the advice you gave?
I said, you have a sick patient, and it's very much like a sick patient in the emergency room. You can't think about it like your car. People in normal walks of life think about money and things as a machine. And unfortunately, so if your car breaks, cars are always easy to fix. My jets, my cars, if it breaks, I know it can be fixed because it simply follows the same pattern. If this part breaks, you replace the part and the thing works again. People and the financial system are not machines. They can't be fixed the same way. You can't simply take out the put some more juice into the commercial paper market, and that's like replacing the carburetor on the car. It's much more, I have a patient who can't breathe, has a stomach problem, can't see, looks bleeding at the same time. What do I do first? I have to think about it as a system. Where's the most logical place? What's the most dangerous place? If your heart stopped, we have to start your heart again. In the equivalent to the money market, why do I have to start your heart again? I need to get your blood flowing. If your blood stops, you're dead. If liquidity, which is the equivalent of blood in the financial system, dries up.
Once liquidity is basically cash, putting cash into the
Forget
system.
about what it is.
Okay.
Liquidity is liquidity. It allows the system, it's the blood of the system. You need to pump blood hard into the body of the economy to keep it flowing. And if you're, especially when you're worried about someone dying, you're not going to be worried about the niceties of, well, you got the shirt dirty and there was some damage. Pump in that blood, keep that heart
When you
pumping
talked
blood.
to the person in Treasury on Tuesday, the 16th, did you?
So there wasn't anybody else that they could get financial advice from, like, because here's the thing, like, I'm listening to him talk and he's kind of like, he's repeating himself and he's kind of low-key saying a whole bunch of nothing. You know, every time they talk about Jeffrey Epstein and these finances, they make it seem like he's some type of guru or something. But just keeping it 100, like, a lot of the stuff that he said, like, I know personally, like, he hasn't taught me anything yet. Like, he hasn't said anything that I haven't heard before. Like, he ain't gave me no financial gain. That's another reason why I wanted to listen to this interview, because when they talk about, you know, oh, this person, he's worked with so many people, he's given so much financial advice and so much financial game and information, and this motherfucker ain't said shit yet worth. He ain't dropped no kind of jewels. Like, he's just jabbering and gibbering. You know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't giving up no kind of game at all for a guy who's supposed to be prestigious and, you know, who's supposed to have this high exalted name in the finance world. He ain't said shit yet that I can personally put into practice in my own life. He ain't said nothing yet. So I'm kind of still waiting on him to say something. You know, but we are going to be we're going to be wrapping this up probably in about 20 minutes because we are entering the end of the first hour of this jibber jabber nonsense. All right. And y'all hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed.
You get a feeling as you were sitting in your 6x9 jail cell in West Palm Beach, Florida, that they were on top of things?
No, you can't. It's impossible to be on top of things. There's no such thing. It's, again, the doctor watching the patient die. You hopefully have some confidence that he's seen it before. He recognizes that there are some steps he has to take first before he bandages the guy's finger or worries about what shoes he has on. So you hope that the people in charge, your doctors who are working on the emergency patient, have enough experience and, frankly, judgment to try to keep the patient alive.
Did you think that they had those things, patience and judgment?
They had pretty good judgment, and you needed a lot of luck, just like in the dead patient. You need to, hopefully you put that blood in and it's not too late. And you make some mistakes, but you have to know you're going to have to give it a shock.
In the run-up to the September crash of 2008,
Yeah.
I guess you weren't occupied with finance. That whole summer, how long had you been in jail?
Went to jail June 30th.
So the entire summer?
Yes.
Before you went into jail, you were still very active in the financial markets?
Yes.
When I say active, you trade currencies every day, you trade stocks every day. When people,
I don't do any.
someone like you, or you give advice to people to trade stocks or trade currencies.
I don't trade every day. I think that's, like Woody Allen said, you can't beat the bank. So I try to pick my spots. George Soros picked his spot when the pound collapsed. This would have been a great money-making opportunity that passed me by when I was in jail, but that's not how I think.
In the run-up to that, in the spring of 2008, that's when Bear Stearns got in problems, I think, in the spring of 2008, and they decided to bail it out. Did the Bear Stearns guys talk to you for advice at that time, in the big crisis in Bear Stearns?
No, but see, again, unbeknownst to most people, and it's easy to blame people for the financial crisis, like you'd blame someone for giving your father the drink before he had his heart attack.
No, okay, now here's what I'm going to say something about what he's saying right now. You should blame people for every financial crisis, because we don't get into a financial crisis without our government making bad decisions, without the banking institution being regulated properly, without the cost of living being properly managed and brought down. When you have high inflation, that causes chaos in our economy, and it causes chaos to the everyday hardworking Americans. You should blame people. You should blame the people in charge. So I definitely disagree with him whatever he's talking about here. I disagree with that. Blame these motherfuckers in charge. Don't just sit back, shut up, and be quiet when shit is fucked up. Blame these people in charge. I don't know what the fuck you talking about, Epstein.
But what really happened, the real enemy of the finance system was Bill Clinton. And if you ask me what and who caused the financial crisis, I would tell you it was Bill Clinton.
Okay. Now that I can highly agree. I can highly agree with that. I can highly agree that Bill Clinton, President Clinton, even though we in 2026, 1996 is not that far away. 2016, 2006, 19, only 30 years. Bill Clinton is definitely a big part of the problem and why the economy is very volatile. The reason why is because he signed the NAFTA agreement, which in a nutshell sent all of our manufacturing jobs and textile jobs and plant jobs. It sent all of our jobs to Mexico and all of those jobs over to Asia, places where people only get paid 10 cents an hour. And so this is why we have a lot of rusted mills and plants and manufacturing buildings in the United States, because a lot of those jobs got sent overseas because of President Clinton. President Clinton devastated our economy when he did that. Millions of people laid off, but millions of men laid off. This is why a lot of us men have to resort to doing, clerical jobs, office jobs, because a lot of the jobs that we used to do, a lot of the jobs, well, I was a kid. I was in elementary school. I wasn't working. But a lot of the jobs that our fathers and our uncles and our grandfathers used to work, those jobs were sent overseas because of President Clinton. I remember back in the day hearing black men talked about they were going to get laid off because the manufacturing plant that they worked at. I'm from South Carolina, so there was a lot of manufacturing plants in South Carolina in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There's a lot of plant textile manufacturing job. Most of everybody that I know growing up, in the 90s, most of everybody that I knew growing up, they had their dads worked in the plant. Hell, even I worked in the plant myself. My senior year in high school, I worked in the plant. I worked at BMW. When I was a senior in high school, I worked in the BMW plant. I had graduated early. I had got out of school early, so my semester ended in December, and so the graduation wasn't until May. So I went out and got a full-time job and started working. I was working third shift at the BMW plant in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So I was a senior in high school working a third shift job because my semester I had basically taken all my classes. So I didn't have to take any more classes the second semester. So I used that semester to work. And that job is still there. But yeah, a lot of the plant jobs, textile plants, a lot of those jobs was shipped overseas because of President Clinton, because he signed that NAFTA bill, which was one of the dumbest things that he could have ever done, because that was a way to for America to try to participate in globalization, right? Because if you notice, every time there's a Democrat president, they're always trying to globally connect things. They're always trying to do things like that. And this is what messes America up, because we can't have all of our resources and jobs. This is why it's important to put America first. And I know a lot of people don't like the current president in charge because of his personality. But if you look at what he's doing, he's really doing a lot of good shit for America. Like I know a lot of people don't like tariffs and all that kind of stuff because it makes the consumer goods go up, right? But what people don't understand about the tariffs is America was doing business with a lot of these countries and not getting anything in return. So we're taking up a lot. We're getting a lot of their imports, right? But there are, for instance, a lot of Asian countries that don't take America farm goods. A lot of Asian countries that don't take things that America needs to ship out. Right? And so these tariffs need to be put in place so that America can get something back from doing business with these countries. Let me see. JC the Conqueror says Clinton signing that deal show us even back then the Democrats don't care about black people. JC the Conqueror says, I love Trump, even though I disagree with him. Yeah, absolutely. And see, here's the thing. No, it doesn't matter. I voted for Trump. I didn't vote for Trump the first time. I voted for Hillary Clinton the first time because I was still brainwashed on the plantation. I really didn't start. I learned a lot about politics and policy when Barack was in office, but I really didn't wake up until Barack got out of office and I saw that he didn't do anything for black people, which, you know, people say, oh, he's the president of America. He's not just the president of black people, but at the end of the day, he could have did something for black people. I don't care what nobody said. He could have did more than just the My Brothers initiative. Go look that up. That's a little program that he started for young black boys and all this kind of stuff. He could have did way more for black people. I don't care what nobody say. But yeah, when it comes to politics, nobody is going to agree 100% on anything. And that's what a lot of people got to understand. Because when it comes to a lot of people just get emotional and in their feelings and all that shit, right? Like President Trump put some type of monkey shit on his social media. Okay. Was it disrespectful? And I didn't see it, so I got to go take a look at it, right? Now, was it disrespectful? It probably definitely was disrespectful if you compare black people to monkeys, right? However, at the same time, politics doesn't give a fuck about your emotions. And this is what people have to understand about that. Okay? I voted for him to do his fucking job so that I can do my fucking job. And what people don't understand is that if President Trump is racist, then Barack Obama is racist. Then George Bush is racist. Then Joe Biden is racist. Then Kamala Harris is racist. Because this is what they do. They always love to paint the picture like, oh, it's just one person that's racist. Or the current president is the best president or worst president we have. I'm like, all of these motherfuckers is racist. All of these motherfuckers is calling you niggas. All of these motherfuckers is doing shit to disrespect you behind your back. I vote for them so they can get in there and do their fucking job. You want to talk shit about me? Go ahead. Talk shit about me. But do your fucking job. Everybody today want to be in their emotions and shit. Everybody want to be in their emotions and shit. You see what I'm saying? So even your own job don't give a fuck about your feelings. Your job don't give a fuck about your feelings. The church you go to don't give a fuck about your feelings. All they care about is that you put something in that collection plate. Being emotional in your feelings is going to get you nowhere in this life. Zero. But anyway, that's enough of my rant about that. Let's go ahead and finish this last 15 minutes out.
Because of what Bob Rubin and he did to deregulate the financial system?
No. Because as of the last time we had our 60-minute interview, you talked to me about home ownership. And you asked me whether everyone should own a home. And I told you, no, it's too risky.
So the financial collapse of 2008 is because of hardworking African Americans, Hispanics, and whites who wanted to have a piece of heaven.
Yeah, somebody in the chat, Fred 420 Stoner says, talking about Mexicans too. Yeah, Trump talked mad shit about Hispanic people. And guess what? A lot of Mexicans voted for Trump. A lot of Mexicans voted for Trump. And see, here's the difference between me and a lot of regular people. I don't worship these motherfuckers. I don't worship these motherfuckers. Do your fucking job so that I can have a job. Do your fucking job so that my children can have jobs, so that my children can grow up in a country where they can thrive and prosper, so that your children can grow up in a country where they can thrive and prosper. When I was working with the military, there was no time for feelings. I'm dealing with soldiers on the brink of suicide that have all type of mental health problems, going through things. Like, when you're in the middle, when you're doing any type of work with the government, there is no time for feelings. There's no time for feelings. And everybody wants to be in their feelings. And I know what I'm saying. It's going to fall on a lot of deaf ears. You know why it's going to fall on a lot of deaf ears? Because motherfuckers is in their feelings.
Have a ownership stake in the society that all rest on their shoulders. They're the culprits.
No, not at all.
Okay, then.
I didn't say they were the cops. I was pretty clear it was Bill Clinton.
Okay.
Why was it Bill Clinton? Because Bill Clinton wanted to get votes from those people. And he sold them the idea that instead of renting in a house, and historically the values of houses have gone up, and he said, you guys in these local communities who haven't been able to afford a house before, I'm going to show you a way. I'm going to give you a way, because I'm sure I'll get your vote, that you can own a house, because I want your vote. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let you buy a house, Mr. Bannon, when you really, you're right on the border, maybe, or not even on the border. Your credit is not good. Okay, let's be honest. And it's not my fault, it's not Bill Clinton's fault, but if whatever happens, at the moment your credit score or whatever it is, your credit's not good. Now, normally, you come to me and want to borrow money, I'm a bank, and I say, I'm sorry, Mr. Bannon, I can't lend you money because your credit score is not up to where it needs to be. Hopefully, if you work harder and clean up some of your problems, it will be. But no, what I say to you is, I'm going to figure out a way to lend you, not give you. I'm going to lend you money anyway, though you don't have a good credit score. And don't worry, I'm going to get rid of the term that you don't have bad credit. Bad credit sounds pejorative. You don't want to be a person.
Sounds judgmental.
Yes, sounds judgmental. So what we're going to do is we're going to call your credit situation subprime. Oh, nobody knows what that means. Subprime. That means prime is good credit. Subprime is not good credit, less than good credit. So we'll call it something that people really won't follow, and we'll tell you what. We're going to have people lend you money, though you are a subprime borrower, and I will figure out some government agencies to guarantee your loan, though I don't.
Okay, so also, because I have worked in banking as well, you know, so I'm a little bit somewhat financially savvy when it comes to some of these policies, right? Now, here's the thing. What Epstein is saying right now is spot on. Not only did Bill Clinton make the mistake in signing NAFTA, which sent millions of American jobs overseas, but this is where you start to see the late 90s prime and subprime when it comes into lending, right? And so when we fast forward to the Obama era, 2008, where, we're just getting out of George Bush, going into Obama. One thing that Obama could have done, which he did not do, and I was actually working for a major bank during the Obama years, which means that my job was hard because we were in a recession. We were coming out of a recession. And everybody and their mama was trying to borrow money. They were trying to get debt forgiven. They were trying to get, second credit cards. They were trying to get their mortgage refinanced. It was a very shitty time to be working in banking or the financial industry in the Obama years. It was a very tough time. At least I had a very tough time. Right? Now, Obama bailed out all the airlines, bailed out all of the car manufacturers, bailed out all the banks. You know what he didn't do? He didn't put forth any regulation against prime and subprime lending. Which is why we are now entering the era of a 40 and 50-year mortgage. Because there was no regulation put on prime and subprime lending, and there was no regulation put forth when it basically comes to housing in America, which is why when you see a lot of these new communities being put up, you're not seeing for sale signs. You're seeing lease this house in this community signs now. So Obama could have, people like to say, well, Obama did the best he could. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. There's a lot more that Obama could have done regulation-wise when he was in office so that we wouldn't be in the turmoil that we're in right now and that we're about to go into. Because in order to have a better economy, you have to go through the storm. You have to go through the storm.
I don't think you're a good risk. So the banks say, no. We don't want, initially, the bank said, sorry, this is too risky, Mr. President, for us. We're in the business of managing risk. It's not our money. It's the hard-working people's money sitting in our bank. We can't lend to people whose credit is not prime. You're asking us to lend to people who are subprime. And he says, here's the key, if you don't, Mr. Bannon, I'm going to make sure the Justice Department charges you with discriminatory lending because you refuse to lend to my subprimers. In business terms, you should never lend to. But what we'll do is I'm going to form an agency called Fannie Mae and Ginnie Mae, just another agency names. They'll guarantee your loan. So don't worry. Don't worry. You don't have to pay it back anymore. Even though and maybe you don't even have to work as hard anymore. That's probably a harsh statement, but these players, these two big firms, Fannie Mae, will guarantee the fact that that bank will receive its money. Now, the bank says, wow, best deal in history. I refused to lend to Mr. Bannon, but now he has the big brother, his Uncle Sam. He went to his Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam says, I'm guaranteeing it. The bank says, I want everybody. Give me as many people as you can give me, because Uncle Sam is the best credit in the world. Not only it's the United States government. We'll take it all. We'll take as much subprime as we can handle, because it's the best investment for the moment. It's a strange investment because it has politics that has inserted its way into the numbers. Politics doesn't belong in the markets, but now we're going to have, I want the votes, we'll make guarantees that you who can't get a house normally will be able to get a house from the bank. The bank says, this is the best deal in history. We will package 100, 300, 1,000 of you subprimers, and we'll sell it off to somebody else. And the whole system becomes mired in subprime mortgages. That's becomes the issue.
What do you mean mired? There's just too much supply. It's a supply-demand problem. You get too much supply.
No, it's a very good question. What does too much supply mean? Well, then you get to people, go back to your first question to me, government leaders. Government leaders know if they're good, and they can do mathematics, they can balance their checkbooks. So certain people in Congress said, well, how do you value these subprime mortgages? The banks say we've been valuing them the same way we've always valued them for the past 20 years. The accounting firms, there's something in this country called GAAP accounting, which is a standard type of accounting. And we account for them the same way we've always accounted for them. If we paid $1,000 for your mortgage last night, when we put it on our books today, we're going to say its value is $1,000. So it makes sense. I paid for it what's its value? It's $1,000. That's what I paid for it last night. No. The Congress people said, that's not really a good answer, you know. That doesn't give us confidence that you know what you're doing. Because what happens if you have to sell it tomorrow morning? Something's happened and you have to sell it. Remember, there's kinds of stress tests. Would you be able to value it at what you paid for it the day before? And Wall Street says, that's not the way you can think about this. This is crazy. We always value things at the cost from the day before. And they changed the accounting method, in essence, to say not what it was worth yesterday, but if I have to sell, what would it be worth? That's impossible. So what happens is every bank now has to value something that they bought yesterday at lower than they paid. Never before in 20 years did they have to do this. So something they bought at 1,000, on their books was 1,000, is now 990. That starts to, you asked the question about what did I start to think about. Something's 1,000 and 990, this person now has to value it at 980.
When did you first start to get nervous? Understanding Bill Clinton in all this. Did you change glasses?
Yes.
Okay.
I changed shirt.
I saw that black.
Okay. I think we'll end it right there. Basically, basically the first hour of the interview. I may come back later this evening and do part 2 of this interview. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of like give y'all a sense of like what this dude is like, because look at him. This dude is a child, a sex trafficker. And when you look at him, like, you just would not think that. When you hear him talk, you would not think that. But again, look at people in public. He looks like your everyday professional, your everyday work professional. Whether that be at a bank, at a university, professor, college. So this just go and see everything that he's talking about is like a mask for how he really is, who he really is. And that's the scary thing about it, is that like he could talk all this talk and be doing all of these evil things. So I may come back a little bit later and excuse me, do part 2. Or not, I don't know. Just depends on how I feel. I may or may not leave this up. So Well, let me rephrase that. I may or may not leave this up on YouTube. But it will be up on Rumble. It will be up on Rumble for sure, for sure. Because we are streaming live on Rumble as well right now. See, I'm just making some adjustments before I shut it down. But listen, I appreciate y'all for stopping by, man. Appreciate y'all for stopping by. And hey man, stay safe out here. Stay safe, man. Stay away from goofy ass people. You know. And there's a lot of goofy shit too going on in these YouTube streets, man. Make sure y'all stay sucker free, man. Don't be getting involved in a lot of these little beefs and shit going on YouTube. Don't be taking motherfucking side. Don't be taking motherfucking side of shit just because you like a motherfucker. You don't know these people in real life, man. Stop following these people like, you know what I mean? Stop worshiping these YouTubers, these content creators. I'm just, even with me, I'm just a regular ninja in the living room live streaming right now. You know? So I just want to say that because a lot of people, you know, they be worshiping y'all. People be worshiping these motherfuckers like this is regular ninjas, man. But listen, make sure y'all hit that like button where you go. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I'll be seeing y'all next time, man. All right? Peace.